good to have you back. Let's bring you this now. Learning about our past, the good and the bad, is part of our heritage. District 6 Museum in Cape Town documents the forced removals that took place in the area back in the 1960s. And to tell us more about District 6 history is former District 6 Museum Director, Ms. Bonita Bennet. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bonita, and happy heritage to you. And thank you for taking time out on this beautiful holiday to speak to us about our heritage. And that's my first question to you. I mean, what's the importance of South Africans to constantly learn and educate themselves about our heritage?
Yes, well, thank you. Good morning to you and happy Heritage Day to you as well. I think places like District 6 Museum and other museums, other memory sites in our city, well, actually in our country, they play a very important role in helping us or reminding us about the past. And you know, we didn't start on a clean slate 1994 as if there was no history. There's history, good and bad, that came from days of apartheid, days of colonialism. And so an awareness of that is very important in order to build a more inclusive, just, and democratic country. But I think sometimes we get a bit caught up. Having said that, I do believe heritage is an important part of taking ownership of the past and learning about it as well. Sometimes we get a bit caught up and we expect heritage to build the better nation, and we forget that heritage is just one part of it. You know, knowing your past, much as there was a slogan that used to be that you need to know the past in order not to repeat mistakes of the past, or quote something like that.
And with that, you said, Ms. Bennet, if I could just jump in there. I mean, for anyone who hasn't visited District 6 Museum before, doesn't know what to expect, what rich history and heritage is locked inside the museum?
So the District 6 Museum has an exhibition, a permanent exhibition that tells the story of the district, where District 6 was, who were the people living there, what were the experiences, and it also tells the story from a very personal point of view. And so it's a mixture of photographs, artifacts, and personal stories, voice that you can hear through the sound domes. And you will hear or learn about how people experienced forced removals on a very, very kind of granular level. And so that's the story that the museum tells, but it also tells the story of, it didn't stop when people were forcibly removed. What happened to them? Where did they move to? And also, the people of District 6 have been very central in creating the museum. And so there's an ongoing program helping people to make sense of the past and also celebrating the resilience of the community.
Yeah, and besides the politics, I just wonder of the rich cultural contributions that we can also learn about just from the District 6 Museum and the history of that culture that has shaped, our society today.
That's right, yeah. And I think District 6 Museum is very careful that it doesn't just want to be telling the story of, these people were moved out, but they were actually very happy people. They had good sense of humor. They celebrated New Year with carnival and Malay choirs and Christmas choirs. So it tries to tell the balanced story that in the midst of all of that, there is also a history that we do need to remember, which is slightly uncomfortable. Many people want to kind of forget about the past and move on. But it tells a kind of more holistic story that takes into account both the icons of District 6, the literary heroes like Richard Reeve, like Alex Laguma, who all have a history with District 6. So there's icons. There are musicians that also come from District 6. There were politicians. There's a very rich cultural, culturally diverse place, and also, but it also tells the story of the ordinary folk. So it's not just the iconic story, the big names of history, but looking at all of these things come together to tell quite a holistic story.
Yeah, I think from this conversation, I would encourage every South African, now that lockdown restrictions have been eased, to make their way to District 6 if they can and learn about this rich history, of course, locked inside the museum. Thank you so much for speaking to me, Ms. Bonita Bennet, the former director of District 6 Museum.